if the athlete wants to develop and have like really if they're in strength training, they need to be prioritizing protein. And I'm not talking about the protein like grab a Special K protein bar from the store shelf, because that's not the protein they want to be having. Yeah, that's protein, but that's not the quality protein.
That's a marketing gimmick, honestly.
Yes, that's marketing gimmick. It's like 6 grams of protein. Well, yeah, there's also 20 grams of fat and like 53 grams of sugars in there. So that's not specifically, but you know what I'm saying. It's important to say. So let's take a step back, and like we have so many great options out there for whole protein options, plant-based and not, like all that aside, but simple things like they could have, instead of having a Special K bar that's protein added, or like Kellogg's cereal with extra protein added. Like, let's just go with a good option. Let's give like a good wholesome, like a meat. You can do cheese, you could do eggs, you can do whole things. You can also go for protein supplements.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the BentOnBetter podcast. It is Nick April here, introducing this time, and Matt April here. Yay. I had the pleasure, I got to introduce us this time. Guys, welcome back. Today our topic, we're going to be talking about young athletics and particularly fitness surrounding young athletics and wellness as part of that. So we have a couple, right before our podcast, sometimes we like to just brainstorm and talk about a few things. And we've got quite a good amount of areas we're going to cover here. So if you're listening to this, ideally, we want you to be in some kind of parental role. It doesn't mean that you can't be a young athlete listening to this, but we want you to be in some kind of parental role and have maybe a child or two who's involved in athletics. Yeah. This is going to be big. This is huge. So Matt, I'm going to pass it to you and have you kick it off here and talk to us.
Well, how are you feeling?
I'm good, man.
Feeling good?
I'm great.
Feeling a little more awake, a little more energized now?
Oh, yeah.
Now that we've been around for a little bit? Good. I'm feeling good, too. My knees are starting to feel a little better, just in terms of like being here and sitting down a little bit. I did a little workout this morning, a little training, just a little upper body stuff, just to give my lower body a little more of a break and a little more recovery time. But I still did some lower body stuff, some body weight squats and some hip thrusts and stuff. But yeah, I think it's important to prioritize it. And so part of the story was that both boys had to come downstairs today. So I lifted in my basement this morning, and both Joey came down and said bye to me. And so, you doing your workout, Dad? I was like, yep, do my workout, bud. They have a great day at school, and like gives me a hug and kiss and say goodbye. And then Johnny too came down and saw me lifting. And a big part of what we do as parents, and I'm speaking as parents to the parents, and Nick's going to speak in terms of as a coach to the parents, but I can speak as a parent and to other parents in that what we're doing as parents is we're trying to create a better life for our children than we had as kids, or a better understanding in terms of health, in terms of finances, in terms of emotions, in terms of school, and every aspect of our lives. We want to help our children understand, but also grow and make their own decisions and make their own beliefs and form their own beliefs. And part of that is how we speak to them. So Lynn and I, it's really cool because the boys look at like working out. We're just going to call it working out because it's super easier than saying like training. They look at working out as like it's part of life. It's part of life, and it's so cool because like I was brought up, and I'm sure we can get into this a little bit, but I was brought up as like you make a choice to be in fitness, and then you go that route in terms of like sports. Like your friends are in like sports, so you make a choice. You make a choice to be in sports, and then fitness usually ends up being part of sports. And athletics, right? Let's just call it athletics. You make a choice of going athletic route versus going different route. And you can do forget about all that. Let's just be specific about athletics and fitness today. When I was younger, I was guided into like kind of making choices however I want to. I don't know if you remember this, but I was in Boy Scouts. I was a Boy Scout for a little while. And so and that was a really young age. That was before sports were really an option in a lot of ways. But when I would see like other friends doing these sports, like I thought like I want to do that. Like that looks like fun. And so I stopped the Boy Scout route and went the athletics and sports route. And then that turned a whole new trajectory in my life. But for me as a parent now, it's like I want Joey and Johnny, I want my kids to be able to make that choice on their own, but to understand that fitness is still a foundation and it's still just part of life. So even if both of them decide not to go into sports and not to go into athletics, and I think very well that one of them Joey will probably end up going into like gaming. Like he just loves like technology and gaming and like taking things apart. Very like scientific brain, like Lynn. Very scientific, like understanding it all, the works of it all, figuring things out, but likes that. However, like if we can make as parents, if we can prioritize movement and athletics, or movement and like fitness as a regular routine versus a task that you have to do, it's going to make our kids so much more open to this idea. And I think a lot of what I hear from a lot of our members and what I've heard in the past 5, 6, 7 years is that they were never brought up to prioritize fitness. They were never brought up to prioritize health. They were never brought up to prioritize eating healthy or eating well. It was never a priority. It was never a thing. It was just kind of like you just go on with life. It was never something that was so for me and Lynn, we prioritize it as like we tell the boys, like, boys, we're going to the gym to do our workout. Like we'll see when we get back. And like it's just part of our life. I go in my basement and I lift. We come in here and we do our lifts and we do our workouts and we do our training areas at times. So for me as a parent, speaking, the first point is making it a routine and a habit versus a task or a chore. Yeah. And that's big. One thing that was interesting, I don't know what made me do it. It was the first time I ever said these words to Joey, but he was looking for the remote, the Fire TV remote, the little black remote. And he was looking for, what's going on with this wire? He was looking for the remote, and I knew the remote was under the blanket on the couch. And he's like, Dad, where's the remote? I'm like, Bud, I don't know. Did you look for it? He said, yeah. And then I thought to myself, like, as I was saying that, I thought to myself, like, wait a second. I remember seeing it on the couch. I think it's under the blanket. And I was like, Bud, did you look everywhere? Yeah. Did you look on the tables? Yeah. Did you look on the couch? Yeah. Did you look under your blankets? Yeah. I'm like, okay, Joe. I'm like, I'll come help you. If you looked everywhere, I'll come help you. And then I said, but if I find it, you have to do 5 push-ups. And then, and this is the best part. I walked over there, and he just started doing push-ups.
Oh, no.
He's like, Dad, watch this. I can do 10 push-ups. And did 10 push-ups.
It backfired.
Yeah, it backfired. It backfired in the most beautiful way possible, in that we have taught him that like fitness is not a penalty. Fitness is not it's not a chore. Fitness is a lifestyle. Fitness is part of it. It is actually what's the word I'm looking for? It is a gift. Like fitness is a gift. Movement is a gift that we all have that not everybody has. Yeah. So I think it's important to say. Not all kids can do a push-up. Not all kids have the ability to do it. Whether you're born in a certain way that you're unable to perform those movements because whatever reasons, or because of mental or physical limitations, whatever it is. It's so crazy to think that like we all wake up and we get to move and we get to do these things. You have oh man, like we'll get a whole other thing if we talk about that. Like reframing your mindset of like, I have to go to the gym, or I have to go to work, or I have to go to whatever. I get to go to the gym. I get to go to work. I get to go out with my friends. I get to go to this party. Like change the way you're talking and speaking, so the way you're thinking then changes your life. Yeah. Period. But let's get back to the kids.
Sure.
The kids, when we prioritize fitness and movement as a regular thing, as a lifestyle, as just it's something that's part of what makes us healthy and strong, that's the life you should be living. That's how we should be bringing up our kids. That's how we need to be bringing up our kids. I'm going to speak directly to you right now. If you are a parent watching this and you are a parent of a kid of a child who is under 18, you can still have a huge impact on their life by showing them that fitness can be a regular routine and a habit that provides strength and health to their bodies instead of it having to be a task. Remember that.
Yeah. Cool.
Do you have something you want to add?
No, well, I think you said it so beautifully earlier. If I backtrack about halfway through what you were just talking about, you said fitness is necessary for like life. It's inevitable. You're going to come across needing to move. given that you have the capability, right? And so in order to make sure that those movements aren't troublesome for you, don't present hurdles to you, practicing those movements and in different ways and forms and shapes and sizes and all that is very important. And so I just want to just like come back and take my highlighter out and put that right over you said. I actually don't think I nailed it word for word, but you said fitness is essential for life or something. You said something like that. It was so perfect.
Man,
I know. It's hard.
Hopefully I said that. I'll say it again. Fitness is essential for life, is essential to life. Fitness is essential to life, and movement is essential to life.
It's like hygiene.
It is.
Right? You should take pride in hygiene in different forms, because that's what promotes longevity, right? We end up having this, unfortunately, we have a physical being, right? We are in a body. So we have to kind of take care of this body, this machine, whatever you want to call it, whatever who's listening to this and what way they're going to think about it. But there's a physical aspect to your life, and it's very important to make sure that body can do all these functions that you need it to do on a regular basis.
And we're humans. Like, we literally have legs that are meant to move. Like, we tracking back as far as you can. Like, we're meant to move. We have feet, evolutionarily. We're meant to be moving. Yeah. Like, movement is part of what we're supposed to be doing. And I've always been like, I don't know, I kind of almost take it personally when new clients or new members, potential people coming in here speak to me and talk to me in our sit down in our consultations, and they say, or even people who are current members who have been here for a little while. When we have our meetings, and either it's our accountability meetings or our nutrition meetings, it always seems like it has to be a task.
Yeah.
Like, I have to wake up and like get ready, and I have to go to the gym, and like I have to get it done early so I can like get on with my day. Like, well, or look at it as you have the opportunity to change your life by waking up just 1 hour earlier to make sure that you're prioritizing your health so you can continue to go on with your day, so you can continue to provide for your family, so you can continue to work your job, so you can continue to live the life that you're living right now. Like, prioritizing these things. And the part that gets me so wrapped up is that there are, and oh gosh, like this would be a whole other thing.
Let's get you fired up, dude.
Fired up. The doctors and the other professionals in the healthcare industry who tell people to not exercise. Okay, I'm not a doctor. Okay, let's brush that one out of the way. I'm not a doctor. This is not doctor medical advice. This is just me speaking my mind. Get it clear. But like if they're a doctor, if you are having knee pain, we'll talk about knee pain because knee pain is a regular thing, a recurring thing here. You're having knee pain, you go to the doctor does an x-ray, says, okay, well, you may have some arthritis going on in there, but you should probably avoid squats if you're having knee pain. Like, don't squat. What? Don't squat? Okay, tell me how you're going to bend down to pick up the groceries. Tell me how you're going to bend down to look in the fridge. Tell me how you're going to bend down to look in the microwave or in the oven. Tell me how you're going to pick up your kids from the floor if you have younger kids, if you have older kids, if you have grandkids. Tell me how you're going to do all these things. How are you going to do these? How are you going to not squat? What the doctor should be saying is, let's be mindful about your exercise routine and make sure that you're linking up with a professional who can care for you, who can understand movement, who can make sure that you're prioritizing healthy, sustainable, longevity type movements instead of just going through workouts and routines. It's the healthcare professionals and the doctors that specifically break us down, that make us change our mental idea of what fitness can be. So the parents who are speaking to their kids, when the doctors have told the parents when they have knee pain not to squat, there's the same people who are taking that advice but then are carrying over to their kids, thinking that fitness is meant to be has to be a thing that you have to do in order to get you to a result. So if you want to be a better athlete, parents are like, you gotta train. Like, yeah, that's true in some cases. However, like, you don't have to want to be a great athlete to also train as an athlete, or to train with athletes, or to have a fitness aspect to your life and your regimen, whether it's 1 day a week, 2 days a week, or even 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 days a week. Like, that's okay. Develop a routine that works for you, of course. But anyway, step down off my box.
That's okay. Important. That was a very important note. And you're right. I think we're starting to see a shift, though. And I see it because I'm just I forget what the term is, like echo chamber. I tend to see this a lot because of the influencers I follow on Instagram and Facebook. They tend to be physical therapists, other coaches in the industry, people who they look at it very similarly to us. And those are the ones I gravitate towards, right? So I want to see what's going on their end. And I see a shift of we're starting to realize, or as medical professionals are realizing that, that old adage of like, your knee hurts, don't squat, that doesn't work anymore. Good. And they're seeing that people are saying, maybe that doc's not right. Maybe there's something going on his end or her end, and so it's cool to see that paradigm shift already happening. And I know that there are plenty of healthcare professionals out there who are doing it right. They understand these concepts, and they understand.
And they're the ones we want to work with the most.
Right. That's very true.
We want to work with them. So if you're a healthcare professional or in medical field, and you are someone who agrees with and understands the idea of strength training and like doing it well, reach out to us, please. Let us know. We want to connect with you. We want to send people your way when people do have those pains and problems.
But it's very important because it comes back to our young athletes as well. We see this happening. And especially, at a young age, you just said how parents can have such an influence over their children with these concepts. Imagine a doctor telling a 12-year-old who, they just sprained their ankle, right? And a lot of time, depending on the protocol that needs to be done, depending on the injury, the cue might be to just don't exercise, right? Stay in this boot for X amount of time and make sure you don't exercise, make sure you don't move. That's fine. There's a time and place for that. But depending on the injury, there might be an opportunity there. Instead of just putting a blanket and saying, whatever, they have an ankle sprain, I don't even care what that injury is, just tell them not to move, put them in a boot, like send them on their way, like get them in and out of the office. That train of thought is done. We can't have that anymore. And so we're starting to see this, thankfully, we're starting to see the shift of, okay, let's link you up with either a physical therapist or an athletic trainer or somebody if maybe it's appropriate to actually have them with a strength a coach, a personal trainer who can guide them. First of all, make sure that they're progressing their exercises properly, but also educate them along the way and help them understand that, these are the motions that are acceptable. These are the things that cause pain. Okay, so we're going to avoid that. That's something you should take note of that. But teaches them that it's okay to move. In fact, it's necessary to move with a lot of injuries. It doesn't mean that all of them are acceptably. We shouldn't, some things I wouldn't move. Right. You dislocate your shoulder, I wouldn't go trying to move that thing. You should probably go see a doc and you should probably listen to them about that. But after you dislocate your shoulder, there is a protocol. You should be following something, right? We need to talk about these things that, thankfully, like I said, is starting to see a shift. But let's I'm getting on my soapbox now, man. I'm getting fired up. You can see my posture's growing and talking.
Like getting up on the seat.
Let's bring it back. So this conversation, we really wanted to talk about fitness in young athletics. Yeah. And so we've kind of nailed some of the, we'll say the prioritization of a fitness regimen, particularly here, strength training regimen. We're talking about resistance training, strength training. Yeah. But maybe we should touch on some other aspects too. So, what logically, maybe I don't have the best next step. What would you want to talk about next in terms of if we've already nailed that one? What do you think in order of importance we should talk about? What should a parent be hearing right now who's thinking about sending maybe their athlete to go, train with their friends or maybe just go join baseball? It's their first season or something.
I know. So speaking from experience and knowing this, I have a friend who has a gym out west in PA, and he trains athletes and they work with athletes, and there have been numerous times and stories I've heard that the athletes will work with them to a certain amount of time until the parents decide not to continue to do that because the parents think and they have this realization that the parents can then let the athlete carry over what they've learned there and go into a regular pay a subscription to access a gym, so like a YMCA or Planet Fitness. Yeah. And what happened there specifically with his athletes was the athletes were in there as a group. There were three of them, three high school guys doing squats, and one of them didn't load the weights properly and completely tipped over, and then you end up breaking your shoulder and dislocating whatever else it was, I forget. But having these major injuries that happen because of a lack of priority and a lack of respect, but also not having the proper guidance and supervision to do it. Sure, you might have a high school athlete who's very knowledgeable because they've been training for a while and they can go into the weight room, but there's no way that they need to be in the weight room training the kind of levels that they see on these Instagram stories and these YouTubes. And more and more year after year, we see more and more of these, fearful, terrible videos of these athletes and people doing exercises. The one you showed me, the guy doing the exercise where he's working his quads. I forget what the exact exercise is called, but then as he's doing it, like with weights loaded and stuff, and even doing it by yourself, not with a bunch of friends encouraging you to do these things, this young guy going through this movement, and then your ACL just pops. This completely pops, like breaks, like completely. Snaps, right? Because it snaps as it
tears.
Yeah, tears. Thank you.
Tear.
So, but it looks like a big old pop.
It looks very
like
dramatic.
disgusting.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
But what I want to get to and really nail down for the parents listening is enrolling your athlete into a program, into a strength training program, is going to be the best decision financially that you can have, but also in terms of fitness, in terms of professionalism, in terms of everything else, having to make sure they have a coach to guide them, to supervise them, and to encourage them, and to support them is so important. And those 4 areas are so big, right? So they can get the access to a gym by going to any place, and like so they can have the access to training there. And maybe they have friends who are really interested in training and have done the research and have looked at all the YouTube videos and they see how the form needs to be, and they can guide them. So they can have guidance. They may even have support from your friends because their friends are like encouraging them. And they'll have that, but then they don't have the professional level of experience to make sure that they're getting through the right things that they need to be doing in terms of the things that they want to be doing.
And troubleshooting errors.
And troubleshooting errors is huge, huge in terms of for the athletes as well.
Yeah, we're talking about athletics, so inevitably they're likely involved in a sport, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we have physically active young children who aren't involved in sports, and they go to the gym or wherever, these free access gyms just to simply move and to work out, and right? And when these pain points come up, when they start experiencing pain in different ways, and they say, well, wait, I'm working out. Isn't that normal? Like, I should be feeling pain. At such a young age, to start accepting that as a reality is so damaging. Yeah. And it's hard to undo that. As adults, man, we see people come in here all the time. They go, well, this, I sometimes I have to actually pull it out of them in talking with some of our members sometimes. I'm surprised by it because if you just look at them visually, sometimes they don't look like they're in pain. And they move pretty well. And then you start talking, you dig a little bit, and they go, oh, yeah, man, those squats, they were killing my knees yesterday. I'm like, oh, wait, what? What happened? What? Yeah. Can you rewind that back? And, it's not quite that dramatic. I think that was just a made-up example. But the point I'm getting at is it's very real. And if they don't have somebody to troubleshoot that with, or if they've accepted it as a reality, that is a recipe for disaster and later in life. If you expect to be able to do this through your childhood years, into your young adult years, past that into later in life, after you retire, right? We're talking about habits, and you started this podcast by talking about building sound habits at a very young age, especially as the parent, as the influence there. And so that's what this whole conversation was started out to do, is inform the parents who play a very major role in influencing their children. Yeah. So we've talked about now having our kids in gyms or free access gyms without supervision. You were mentioning this friend of ours, this coach who trains these athletes. So maybe let's start to guide this conversation in a different direction now. So we understand the importance of having young athletes in a supervised setting, working with professionals who really have the experience, whether it's professional coaches on the staff or whatever, have the experience to back it up, and the know-how, right, the knowledge there. But let's talk about like training load, maybe, because I think what we see a lot in young athletics, especially with folks who have children who they really want to specialize in a sport, or they're maybe just a little bit more competitive than some of their peers. And they're at that point where they feel almost pressured to be one of the top players on the team or whatever. The expectation to go into the gym or wherever they're training is like, that guy should be doing the most. That girl should be lifting this much. She should be doing this much. And that's a lot of pressure, and how that can add up over time, and they can be quiet about what they're feeling. And, some of those things come up. So what we should talk about, maybe recovery. And the importance of recovery and thinking about your training as a young athlete and not loading it too heavily. Yeah. There needs to be times for rest, or times when we actually back off a little bit, especially during a season. It's not always appropriate to continue pushing those boundaries with your strength training during a season. Yeah. Right?
Well, yeah. And I like that. So let's make sure we cover the in-season stuff too versus off-season training, specifically for the athletes. But when we're talking about load, we're talking about specifically like workload, not just like the load of the amount of weight they're lifting, But for athletes who are multi-sport athletes or like they're in athletics, but maybe they're also in scholarly like organizations and other different places, they're really spreading themselves out really well, a lot. And unfortunately, in our society, the older these kids get, closer and closer to college, and to like in high school and beyond that, the more of a priority it is to have lots of things going on. And speaking from experience, because I was in like FBLA, I was in Helping Hands, I was in track, did multiple other sports that I played in high school, all throughout the high school career, and then also working part-time, starting having my own like side hustles. I was doing so much, and for me, at least I can speak for myself, like I wasn't prioritizing social life, so like I would never go out. like friends would go out on the weekends, I would choose to stay home because I was either working or because I had homework to do or whatever. And that's kind of who I've always been. But for the athletes and the parents, particularly the parents, we have to prioritize recovery.
Yeah. And
we have to make sure that the priority is set for sleep and nutrition and hydration, and then also mental recovery, like having to have an opportunity to unwind, to actually be a kid, to actually experience the joys of childhood. Because up until 18, you're still considered a child, a minor, even though you're a young adult at the age of like 15, 16, 17, and like getting closer to 18, you still have to be able to have that mindfulness in your recovery for mental and physical and emotional.
Spiritual, man.
Yeah, all those different components. But specifically, when you talked about like the different, like being so involved in so many different areas, let's look at it from a really pulled back view. And what are your kids doing? Like that's what we need to think about. As a parent, what are your kids spending their time doing? Where do they want to be? What do they want to be doing? And how hard are you pushing them? Because I think that, as parents, we want to see the best for our kids, but sometimes we don't stop to ask them if that's truly what they want to be doing, or if that's like truly what they believe is the right thing for them to be doing, or whatever. I use my own as an example. Like Joey loves playing on his iPad, like playing his games, and like loves being involved in that. And when he gets home from school, because he's at school all day, he's learning all day, like we build in a time so that he has a moment to like do what he loves. He comes home, he washes his hands, like, Joe, you like to have a snack? You want some water? Like, by the way, we prioritize water. So the boys only drink water and they drink milk. They drink milk to start their day and to finish their day. That's just something that Lynn has carried over into the routine. I'm trying to get them to wean back off milk. However, sometimes that's like their only form of calories sometimes, because it's whole milk. And for example, Johnny, the younger one, he loves eating fruit. Like he will eat fruit all day, like just like grapes, apples. Fruit bat. Like eats fruit all day. Fruits and like other form of carb. Like he loves like tortilla chips. Like he'll eat tortilla chips and fruit. So for us sometimes, like if we can't, some days like he just won't eat other stuff we try to give him. He's very limited in what he wants to have. So like we know that at least like having milk to start the day, he's getting fats, he's getting proteins, he's getting the things he needs to have, nutrients he needs to have. But eventually we'll get off the milk train anyway. Yeah. The point I want to make was for Joey, when he comes home, we give him what he wants, give him the things he needs to have. Like if he asks me if he wants a snack, give him his water and ask me if he wants a snack. And then he plays his iPad. Be like, here you go, buddy. Like it's a moment for him to unwind. And the same would go for Johnny. If he came home and like wanted to go right to that bed. Sometimes Johnny just wants to sit down and like watch a show, or like he just wants to play with his toys and like wants us to play with him. So like we'll play with him. But as parents, we need to prioritize the emotional health of our kids as well as the physical health. And the physical health is great, but if they're not having time to unwind, not having time to decompress, not having time to really understand their body and their mind and to develop in that way, then we're going to push them into a place where they're going to think that, like a lot of our members, that exercise is a task. Yeah. And if you push them, like you have practice now, you have training now, you have to go to this club meeting, you have to go to that club meeting, push all the time. You're really gonna create some resilience in some way, but also some pushback and some really tough mental blocks for some kids later in life.
And I think some with that comes frustration too, because as the kids don't have as much time to now experience some of their emotions or even think about having a little bit of a break, man, that just digs deep into their body, and that comes out later in life or later times during their sports, whatever. It manifests in different ways. And so again, great coverage there on that topic. There was something I wanted to come back to, but without thinking too hard about that. The need, yes, for recovery. I know what I was going to say. The need for recovery, very important. And that, especially when you have your young athletes involved in some kind of personal training capacity. So I'm going to get very specific and talk about strength training here, personal training. Working with coaches who understand these concepts. When you drop your child off for strength training or for practice, a lot of times you'll see this in athletics too. The coaches understand, not just from being experts in their sport or in their field, they understand the need for all the strength training and all the work, but they also really deeply understand that need for recovery. And so what you should potentially be hearing with the actual sports themselves, but definitely in the coaching environment for strength training, is you drop your kid off that day, maybe their strength training isn't quite to the max. Maybe that kid's going through more body weight movements, something, whatever, to give them a break. Yeah. Maybe their coach is so involved in their athletics, they actually understand they have a competition coming up that weekend. And as a strength coach, they get the opportunity to say, you know what, Joey, I know you've got a race coming up this weekend, or I know you've got a soccer game coming up this weekend. Let's maybe shift your program a little bit differently than Susie over here. Yeah. And give you a chance to make sure that you're still getting these movements in, but that you're doing it in capacity that allows you to recharge, to recover, so that you can perform your best in that game. And you don't get that when you go to a free access gym. You don't get that level of somebody understanding so deeply in what they're involved in. It's overlooked so much, and that the coach holds so much of a relationship, but almost they see it. They can almost see in the future. Prometheus, man, they're on it. Sorry, I felt like that needed some attention.
It's a good one, man. Wait, I want to keep that one going, because as carrying over, so the parents with your athletes, like, we need to make sure that you as a parent, you need to make sure that if your kid is involved in athletics and your kid is involved in strength training or is involved in workouts, whatever we want to call it, that you're giving them the opportunity to grow, but also working with someone who can professionally guide them through, like you were saying, the movements, understanding it. But this is also important for the adults too, in that what we're teaching our kids now, instead of being like push. I was told this all the time when I played football. No pain, no gain. It was always that. No pain, no gain. No pain, no gain. And pain is a weakness leaving the body. Pain is a weakness leaving the body. Like, I was always told that. And I carried that over in high school, in college, and then even into my adult life, until I realized that, okay, like the pain what I'm feeling is, I should not be pushing through that. Yeah. Like, that is pain that it should not be pushed through. There's one thing to have pain as a no pain, no gain, where you're talking about, like, okay, your muscles are burning, they're fatiguing. Yes, we have to push
about discomfort.
We have to push through the discomfort in terms of muscle fatigue, in terms of stamina and endurance and strength building, because that's how we build resilience. That's how we build strength. But if you're feeling pain, like, that does not feel correct, or it does not, is a pain, knowing the difference between pain and discomfort, knowing the difference between fatigue and pain, that's going to drive you so much further in your experience. So for our adults who, when their kids are saying, like, something hurts, don't let them continue to move forward and push. Have them speak to the coach, have them speak to someone who knows a little more about what's going on, and see, like, is this something that we can address, or is this something that you need to reach out to a medical professional and have it handled? But know that when you say no pain, no gain, even if you don't say those exact words, but when you have this expectation and deliver it to your kids as, like, that is not okay. Like, you need to push, dig, harder, work. That is not going to develop a healthy relationship with fitness. It's not going to happen. And that's why we have adults who come in here, who work with us, who push, like you're saying, like, pushing through the pain that we don't see it, we don't know it, but you're having immense amounts of pain in your knees, and then you tell us later on that you're having pain. Like, that's not okay. We want to make sure that you know these things, know the pain, and then address the problem versus working through the pain and creating a problem. We want to address it before it turns into a problem. We want to address the pain before it turns into a problem. We want to address it, and that's for the athletes. So the adults who are pushing their kids beyond their limits, great. That's really great to push them beyond their limits in the mental capacity, so they understand that they can go bigger than what they're doing. They can move past where they are. It's important to push them and motivate them and inspire them to want to see a change in their physical capabilities, and by challenging them and not giving up. But if they're saying that they're in pain from doing something, it is time to take a step back.
Yeah.
And to hit maybe the pause, or to take a step back and then go a different direction.
Pain is a signal. Pain is a signal in our bodies. Understanding the difference, like you mentioned earlier, about pain and discomfort, they are different. They are very different. And I know a lot of our adults, they actually, you know what? Interestingly enough, a lot of them do understand that difference. But there are some who don't.
Yeah.
And we take pride in educating. We take a lot of pride in that. And I think that as professionals, it's so necessary for kids to understand that difference and to be surrounded by folks, including other athletes, who understand that difference, so that maybe the time isn't there for that young athlete to talk to their coach. Maybe they don't feel brave enough to talk to their coach. Maybe their coach is somebody who is saying, all pain, no gain, or whatever the
no
adage
pain,
was.
No gain.
No pain, all pain, no gain.
Yeah,
That's essentially what happens, right? All pain, no gain.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe they don't feel comfortable talking to their coach because their coach gives off such, very deflective vibes. Like, I don't hear what you're saying. All I hear is complaining. All I hear is whining, whatever. They don't feel comfortable enough. They should have either a peer or another professional who they can turn to, or a parent for that matter, who understands these concepts, who has their best interest truly at heart. And so it's another part of the journey, man, surrounding yourself with those people. But now we shift gears again, and we talk about, because you brought up the idea of nutrition when you were giving an example, and it got brought up, and how, as a parent, I can't speak again from experience from me being a parent, but I know that from having parents, having a house that's stocked with nutrients and calories that are going to support me in my sport or in whatever athletics I'm about to get into is so important. And as a parent, maybe you don't know all those things, but maybe you can talk to somebody who does.
Oh yeah. And let's get into this though.
Yeah, let's dig in.
So let's just break it down with a couple quick tips for parents. Like this is actually going to benefit our adults, but also going to benefit our athletes as well. So speaking to the parents who just let their kids eat. So I want to break down let's give a quick couple of options of like what are some better choices, right? Not saying that you cannot have certain foods. Like, no, that's not the point I want to make. The point I want to make is, if we're going to look at everything as not healthy or unhealthy, but we're going to look at it as high on the nutrition scale or low on the nutritional scale, and then high on the calorie scale versus low on the calorie scale, and then also like, where does it feed the soul? Like, how does that affect the soul? And it's important to keep that in check, for our adults especially.
Yeah.
So let's break it down just a couple quick, simple categories. So bread. So sandwiches are a key component in like everybody. Like it's rare to find a kid who does not eat sandwiches as part of a regular routine, whether it's like breakfast, whether it's lunch,
one of the major food groups.
Yeah, sandwiches. Yeah, that's right. Joe, yeah. So when we're talking about sandwiches, we're talking about bread, like making up bread. When we're looking for better alternatives, we're looking for things. We're gonna look on things that are higher on the nutritional scale. So a quick, simple thing that you can do for your athletes is to prioritize nutrition over cost. And I like to prioritize for our adults who love having sandwiches as part of their regular routine. If you have a sandwich, let's make sure that we're having things. I recommend sprouted whole grain breads. So we want to do the sprouted route because, and again, organic or not, it's fine, but it's going to be easy to find organic sprouted options. But we want to go for that over the white breads, over even just the whole wheat breads, even the potato, especially the potato breads. Some of those like tastier options that, like, growing up, like that was like our regular. Okay, wait, here's the story, right? So growing up in our house, it was white bread, potato bread, wheat bread.
Yeah.
And wheat bread only made its way in there like when I was like in high school.
I was gonna say
it wasn't even there.
That wasn't.
It wasn't
early
even
on.
there. It was in there in high school because I heard that like wheat bread was like a healthier option, and whatever. But I didn't know that, and it didn't taste as good as the white bread because that's what we're used to. You're only used to what you're used to. My kids actually, by the way, don't eat. They won't eat it, or they won't even try white bread, potato bread, anything other than the sprouted grain bread.
Wow.
Is what they have now because that's all they know. And
Yeah.
that's their normal. So what we have to do as parents is we have to set the normal different from what it may have been for us. So the only way our kids are going to grow as human beings is by us showing them what can be their normal. So if we only know that their normal is the sprouted grain breads, organic sprouted grain breads, that's a great option for sandwiches, right? So high in nutrients, we got high in like, cause it's made up of like seeds and grains and just like really wholesome ingredients that have lots of packed in vitamins and minerals that are all in there, but also better protein contents. There's no additional additives, there's no additional crap in there. It's like really good. It's really good nutrition, right? Nutritionally speaking, calorically speaking, it's pretty comparable to everything else. But when we grew up, it was white bread, potato bread. Yeah. It wasn't until I got to college and I was eating my sandwiches on potato breads, thinking that was the healthier option of white bread or potato bread. Even knowing whole wheat was the thing, didn't really understand it. It wasn't a priority for me. It wasn't until a guy who like happened to know me from the gym. He was a little older than me. It was actually one of Lynn's friends. His name was Nate. Nate came up to me. He's like, bro, what are you doing eating potato bread? He's like, you're trying to build up that muscle. You need to be eating the whole grain and the whole wheat. And I was like, whoa. and Nate was like a bigger guy. He was like jacked. He was a big dude. He's like 2 or 3 years older than me, so he's bigger. But that moment, like that was like a aha moment. So anyway, so number one for parents, look at what your kids are eating on a regular basis and what options can you switch to. So yeah, some parents might be listening to like, whoa, the whole grain or the organic sprouted grain breads are way more expensive. Well, actually, no, they're not. They're like $2 more, $3 more. It's not going to break the bank. You can totally not buy that crappy ice cream over there and just avoid that altogether in your household and just get that $2 more bread. That's going to help provide better nutrients for your kids and for your family. So that's number one. Replacing the bread. Let's do a quick bread swap. Let's swap out any bread option that you guys have, that you currently have in your house. Let's make sure we swap it out. Okay, so swap out the bread for an organic or not, but a sprouted whole grain bread. Number two. Let's look at what the components of that, what are going on in that bread. So the classic PB&J, right? So a lot of our members eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And I know a lot of kids do too. Let's switch it. Let's go with something that has a little more substance to it, but also something that has a better nutritional scale to it. So instead of having the typical like creamy Jif, like the candy peanut butter, like that is candy. Look at the ingredients. We're only going to talk about PB&Js now. And we're going to look at the ingredients of the peanut butter that you have. If your peanut butter or nut butter, just peanut butter for now, if your peanut butter on the ingredients label has anything more than peanuts and maybe salt, you're eating candy.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for addressing that.
You're eating candy, peanut spread.
Yeah.
The nutritional benefits of it and the caloric benefits of it are so low. Yeah. And yeah, well, there's protein in it. Yeah, there's also fat in there too. You don't need all that. You don't need it. So let's switch. So we'll make the switch. We're going to talk about the protein or the peanut butter aspect. Switch to something like the Smucker's brand. Smucker's makes a wonderful peanut butter that is literally peanuts and salt. And there's even maybe like a salt-free option. But like, why would you be salt-free with, like, that's fine. And even if your doctor's, and this is for your kids, but if your doctor's telling you to be salt-free, let's have a check. If you're in a fitness routine, we talked about this before, you need to have salt as part of a fitness routine, but we won't get into that today. Number two is the J. We got to talk about the jelly. So you can get the jelly. You can get the classic Smucker's or Preserves jelly, the stuff that's on the shelf, the low end, or you can go for something like the Polner. I think that's how you say it. Polner? It's a fruit spread. Go for the fruit spread instead of the jams or the preserves or the jellies. Go for the fruit spread. And I really do believe it's Polner. I'm going to look it up.
Is the point to that the fruit spread itself doesn't have a whole lot of added sugar?
Exactly. There are no added sugars in there. It's just the fruit. the sugars come from the fruit that they're using.
So like I could take a banana, for instance, I could mash it up and just spread it right on.
Oh, that's even better, man. If you really want to go, so but we're talking about parents. So like, as a parent, making sandwiches for your kids, you want to probably make the quickest one possible because you have so many things going on.
I get that, yeah. Convenience.
Yes, a better option, yes, with convenience aside, the better option would be just slice up a banana and like mash it up. Honestly, what I love doing is I slice it into like 3 or 4 like long slices and lay them out on my bread. So I do eat bread too. I eat the gluten-free bread. When I really want to have like a sandwich, I'll eat that. And like I'm talking like 2 or 3 days a week. And I'm not perfect, right? I eat a gluten-free lifestyle, follow a gluten-free lifestyle because gluten messes with my belly. And I don't want to have a messed up, gassy belly. So, but I also do almond butter, and that's a whole other topic we can talk about. But let's keep it clear here. When I'm looking at Polaner, yeah, it is called Polaner, Polaner. So it's a fruit spread. That's the best one for your jelly. And then beyond that, like we're talking about sandwiches, we're talking about simple switches that you can make in your household. You can make simple switches too for your kids and providing them more nutrition. So let's not buy juices anymore. Let's switch from drinking juices to drinking water. The normal for our kids is water. That's all they know. And it wasn't until recently that they went to like a party like over the summer that they discovered Kool-Aid, the Kool-Aid pouches. And what we had to say was like, yeah, that's called Kool-Aid. It's juice, and it's something we have at like parties when we're having fun. And so they had one, and like that was it. Like they had the end of it. Johnny didn't even want to try it because it was so different.
Interesting.
And so another thing that we do as parents, and I'm speaking to parents, we're talking about nutrition on this term right now. When our kids, they develop their understanding and relationship with the world based on what we tell them. So what Lynn and I have, what we do as parents is instead of giving them like Kool-Aid, like, here, try this. It's super yummy. Try it. It's yummy, yummy, yummy. We're like, this is Kool-Aid. This is a juice. Would you like to try it? What do you think? And that's it. We don't say this is yummy or this is yucky or this is good. This is bad.
While you're eating it, go, mmm.
Yeah, no, we don't do that. We don't do it. We let them try it. Like, I'll try it like, this is really good. Would you like to try it? So letting them develop their own, like letting kids figure out their own, make their own decisions.
Yeah.
Anyway, so other quick tips. So we talk about like a simple thing like just making out the switch swaps for the breads with the sandwiches. The better idea with athletes, for young athletes specifically, and parents, if the athlete wants to develop and have like really if they're in strength training, they need to be prioritizing protein. And I'm not talking about the protein like grab a Special K protein bar from the store shelf because that's not the protein they want to be having. Yeah, that's protein, but that's not the quality protein.
Gimmick, honestly.
Yes, that's marketing gimmick. It's like 6 grams of protein. Well, yeah, there's also 20 grams of fat and like 53 grams of sugars in there. So that's not specifically, but you know what I'm saying. It's important to say. So let's take a step back and like we have so many great options out there for whole protein options, plant-based and not, like all that aside, but simple things like they could have, instead of having a Special K bar that's protein added, or like Kellogg's cereal with extra protein added, like let's just go with a good option. Let's give like a good wholesome, like a meat. You can do cheese. You could do eggs. You could do whole things. You can also go for protein supplements. Protein supplements would be a big factor, a huge help. That was a huge help for you when we were younger.
Big help.
As an athlete. So Nick was underweight for majority of his middle school and going into high school career. He's underweight, especially for athletics. And the doctor said Nick is underweight. And so our mom operated as, okay, he needs to gain weight, so let's buy some protein shakes and protein drinks and supplements. Mm-hmm. Unbeknownst to us, and you didn't know this, but the protein that our mom was buying was like super low key, like super low budget, like Walmart shelf protein.
Wasn't the best quality protein.
Not quality protein that we could have. And unfortunately, we didn't know that. So what we want to do is, so let's talk about protein real briefly. We're talking about supplements for protein. We want to look at the ingredients first. Let's see what is actually in this before we start buying it for our kids and give it to our kids or to ourselves. But you also need to look at is this a protein supplement or is this a meal replacement shake? And a lot of people get those two confused. And the meal replacement shake is meant to be a meal replacement shake. So it's one of those fatty, trendy diets that probably being sold by one of your friends or family members who are trying to sell you on the shakes or sell you on these supplements that are going to help you change your life. And then we need to make sure that our kids aren't like, they don't need that. Our kids should be eating meals and supplement their protein with a added source of protein. So that can be in a powder form, which what we carry here at the gym is the Pro Mix brand. I love it because it's 4 ingredients, 5 ingredients or less. That's always my rule of thumb. Let's try to keep it, if you can count it on your hands, like one hand is the most ideal situation. 5 ingredients or less is the most ideal situation. But if you really need to expand that, if it's a little too aggressive, let's just look at the back of the ingredients and take a look and see. Like, is it a protein source? Is it whey? Is it collagen? Is it a plant-based? The plant-based proteins out there are great. I use one on a regular basis, Ripple. That's fantastic. It's a pre-made shake that comes in a little bottle. It's great for on the go. It's pea protein based, so it's something that it's friendly for everybody, for most people, unless you have a legume intolerance or a problem with legumes. But we ought to look at protein as a quality ingredient and a quality source into our kids, into our athletes, and for the athletes who. Because, I mean, especially the athletes who are getting older, they want to prioritize their strength training. They want to prioritize their muscle development. They want to prioritize getting bigger, stronger, faster, developing more confidence. They want to do all these things. And the training is one part of it. The other part is the recovery. So getting enough protein in, getting the right kind of ingredients in there, or ingredients that make up their sandwiches and their nutrition. But we got to get carbs, we got to get protein, we got to get fats. And I'm going to keep going on this unless you want to jump in there and interrupt me, because I will keep going.
No. I like where you're going with this, because you're covering a lot of very important parts that not only apply to the athletes, but apply to the parents too. And what we're trying to do at the end of the day is instill these habits in both. We want our parents, we want everybody who's influencing their children to have these habits as well, because the more you're surrounded by it, what's that old saying? It's like the people you surround yourself with most, you end up being like the most, or whatever. Right. So you want your parents to be in that same kind of same fashion there with the kids, to have that as an influence. So you just mentioned, ways that you can get protein in as well as supplement. And one of the things, funny enough, that I remember from being younger, experiencing that, that being underweight journey for me, was, you actually told me this too. It was like, eat the meal, whatever you're eating, but then also drink that shake too. And for me at the time, that worked. For me, that helped, because my goal at the time, you have to remember this as somebody who's listening to this right now, my goal was to gain weight. I needed more in than out. I was giving enough out, meaning the out is the exercise, the out is the things I was doing regularly. And that was always exceeding my input, right? The food that I was consuming. So I needed to be able to consume more. And funny enough, I started to feel better too. It started to lift my spirits, because I no longer felt bogged down. Like, I actually felt like I was starting to, my body felt nourished. And that's not a jab at my mother either.
That's so good.
Right? Yeah.
You felt nourished.
I felt nourished. It's not a jab at my mom. She did a great job of providing us with the things that we needed. She just didn't have the proper guidance from the professionals who really knew their way, how to navigate some of these weird spots, like what type of quality protein you're consuming, or how, what type of fluid I'm consuming regularly. It was like, as long as you're getting the fluid, it seems to be working, right? And I didn't know, because it would affect my performance. She didn't see my performance the next day, or how I felt the next day. I didn't always tell her exactly how I felt. Yeah. And I didn't know any better as a young athlete. I was just like, oh, I guess, today's just one of those days that I feel bogged down, or whatever, I just accepted it as my truth. So it was really important, like, experiencing these things, but now looking back on it as an adult and as a fitness professional, like, wow, there are some areas, if I could talk to myself as a kid, man, maybe I'd be playing professional sports like Alicia and Molly, right?
Right. Oh my gosh. Oh, the other thing we talked about in our past episodes was prioritizing water. So I think that's another key factor here. Like, growing up, dude, water was wasn't even on our radar. Like, our mom would drink it all the time. And like, I applaud you, Mom, for
she did a great job.
Always drinking water all the time. Get everything else to the side for like her decisions on like food choices and whatnot, and what we kept around the house. She did what was best for, like, what she thought was best for us, which was giving us what we wanted, and what we wanted, we only knew what we had, right? Yeah. So So like we'd always drink juice. Like that was like apple juice because it was apples. Like an orange juice. Like, oh, like gotta get our fruit in orange juices. Like that's no. Like unfortunately, oh my gosh, we see this all the time. Like because you see commercials more now, more and more as like you watch like these like free streaming platforms. You see more commercials. They are still like Frosted Flakes, part of the healthy breakfast. And it's like it's a bowl of Frosted Flakes with milk, orange juice, and then usually like a bagel or like a muffin or like something else set to the side. So let's break it down. You got carbs in the glass, you got carbs in the bowl, you got carbs on the side, and you got some maybe a little bit of protein, a little bit of fat in that milk if it's like a milk from a cow in there. So it's unfortunate that like still like this is gonna be a battle that we're really I don't think ever gonna move away from. And like you see it more and more in the foods and like the health food trends that are coming out with like superfoods. Don't worry about all the superfoods. Don't worry about all that stuff. Let's work on really good nutrition. But let's start at the base of water, hydration. Give our kids the better hydration so they can then perform better because your systems will run better. You can digest things better. You can have then you can start to introduce the healthier breads, the healthier jelly, the healthier peanut butter or nut butter options. We don't even have peanut butter in the house. We have almond butter, and our almond butter ingredients are almonds. That's it. That's all it is almonds. There's not even salt in there, which is fine because it's still good. But the point that I want to drive home here is, as parents, we have to make sure that we're prioritizing the health of our athletes and make sure that we're prioritizing the health of our kids beyond what we think is healthy. So using places and people like us, like Nick and I, where we have studied these things, we put these things into practice, we put these things into motion in our regular lives. We are doing these things on a regular basis because, one, we believe in it, but two, because the science supports it, and three, because we know that it's going to be the best thing for our bodies. We only have one body. We only have one body, only one chance to take care of our body that we have. So the hygiene is important, but also nutrition is important. The training is important. The movement's important. How we talk to ourselves is important. That should be a whole other podcast too. How we talk to ourselves, self-talk.
Yeah.
Dude, gotta dive into that one.
Yeah.
But today, the importance is for athletes, for parents of athletes or parents of kids, of any type of background, whatever it is, athletes or not, give them the tools to succeed. Put your kids in a place or an environment where they can succeed. And that happens to be here at BentOnBetter. I'm going to pay the bills. Here at BentOnBetter, you can put your kids in a place to succeed. We do have an athlete program here. That's kids. We work with kids. Actually, the youngest one we have, I think, is 8. Even though we kind of like push that age up a bit, we're trying to bring in older kids for right now because the younger kids are a little difficult to work with older kids at the same time. But we can still work with them. So we have kids from 8 up to 17 working here with us. And eventually, mark my words, in the future, we will have kids coming in who are younger than 8. But for now, we have kids age ranging everywhere from elementary school to middle school to high school, all here in one place under one roof, getting the best performance enhancement, the best athletic development they can possibly be getting in the entire area, here with our coaches, here with our staff. We're covering nutrition, we're covering mindset, we're covering and supporting the athlete side of things. And we're making sure that we're developing a well-rounded athlete that can turn into a well-rounded adult. And that's what we do here. And that's the importance of why we want to have this conversation, is so that parents can put into perspective what we're doing with our kids. Are we letting them snack? Snacking is fine. Are we letting them choose their foods? Choosing is fine. Having that choice to do that thing is fine. But we need to give them better choices so that they can make choices based on the better information. And if you're someone who's thinking that, man, like I just don't have the budget for that, you do. You can figure it out. You can move some things around. Our mom was notorious for bargain shopping and always making sure that she was like fully stocking our house to the point where we would keep foods in our basement, in our like extra storage in our basement. We would keep foods there for years at a time. And then when we would go back to like be home from college or go back as adults, we would see the same food sitting on the shelves.
In the bomb shelter.
And yeah, like still there just in case. And some of them were expired, but and some of them weren't, but whatever. But the point I want to make is, like, instead of buying extra stuff, instead of buying all these other things and all these other snacks, and just cut down on the snack options. Like, don't buy 7 different types of chips, like, and spend $2 in each bag because they're deal bags and they're these big family-sized bags for only $2 each. It's a great deal. Like, take that money and invest it into the better option, which is like the whole grain quinoa chips that are $4 per bag, and the bag is half the size. Like, spend the resources on the things that are going to be resources for your kids to have a better future and everything, and a better understanding and a better outlook on prioritizing their health and their nutrition and their mindset and their physical everything. Every part of their aspect, every aspect of their life, every part of their well-being. Prioritize it so that they have the best chance of having a more successful future than you could have ever had yourself.
Yeah, it's optimization, right? You're just trying to make it the most optimal experience for your kid growing up.
Boom.
Yeah.
Boom. Well, that's good. I feel pretty good. That feels pretty good. It's time to wrap it up. So pay the bills a little bit more. If you're hanging out with us, thanks so much for hanging out with us. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure you subscribe. Click the subscribe button on YouTube. If you're just listening to us on any podcast platform, click the subscribe button. Give us a rating, a 5-star rating. We need it. Give us a thumbs up on the video. We need it. And like we want it. Like we welcome it too. Like let's make sure that people know that we're the best one out here. Let's make sure everyone knows that we're the best place out here to train. Let us know in the comments what you're doing with your kids. Let us know what your favorite chips are, what your favorite protein source is. Let us know in the comments so we can get a conversation going and we can make sure that we're making the right moves in the direction that we want to go. Cool. Anything else you want to add in there?
No,
you want to add a little plug in there? Do you have 2 spots open right now for personal training?
Oh man, so not right now, but okay. in the very near future, we're going to be talking about kettlebell workshops. So we're going to be doing more. Think of it like an opportunity now to have more of like a course-like environment where we're gonna dig into these concepts a little bit more, and we're gonna make sure that you feel like you really truly you become the kettlebell, man. You are the kettlebell.
It's good. Well, it's also, I think it'd be really great to cover this in another episode, but like talking about how kettlebell training has improved your performance. And a lot of people have fear around the kettlebells because you're not coached properly, or you're in a big class. If maybe the coach is really great, but you're in this really big class that's not keeping an eye on you, and you've like so many people have like we should do a poll on our Instagram. How many people have hurt their back from using a kettlebell? And like I'm using air quotes here. But like, how many people have hurt their back using a kettlebell, and people have come in here and been like, oh, kettlebells, like I don't do kettlebells, like that hurts my back. But like, well,
do you know?
We need to, yeah.
Do you know the kettlebell, right? So we're talking about different movements than just like your basic deadlift or squat with a kettlebell. I'm talking about swings. I'm talking about get-ups. I'm talking about motions that are a little bit more complex, maybe from the standing from far back view. Do you know, though, that kettlebell swings, as compared to like no swings, have the potential to reverse back disc herniations? So lower back disc herniations have the potential to protect. Oh my God. Right? Have the potential to totally change that.
That's crazy.
Now, there's a bit more to it. I'm not saying that, and right, don't take me and just go off to the side and start swinging a kettlebell.
People are going to start swinging around.
You may very well, especially if you have a lower back disc herniation, you may very well hurt yourself.
Yes.
Please do not do that. Make sure that you are with a trained professional who understands how to properly do that. But can you believe that? It's usually it's the number one complaint people usually give me. My back can't take that. Mm-hmm. And it's like inside I have to stop myself from like projectile vomiting at them and saying, no, you can do that.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, well, maybe they just need a moment to like,
mental game. We need to talk about the mental game. We need to do a podcast on the mental game.
So anyway, look out for those kettlebell workshops. Yes. We're going to be getting into it. I'm very excited for that. I couldn't be more thrilled. It's
good. It's coming up and it's coming up in the upcoming months. So depending on when this comes out, it may already be out. If you're listening to this in the future, it may have already been happening. You can sign up for the next one, but stay tuned on our Instagram. Follow us at BentOnBetter. And so we'll keep you in the loop with all our social media channels. And if you're on our email list, we'll also keep you in the loop. If you're local, we go through some coaching with Nick for kettlebells. But for now, we'll see you again next time. Signing off. Bye.